Next up, I'm pretty sure she's had pretty much every job except for mine at Sports for Kids and Playworks. A coach, a trainer, an AD, and we still had ADs. Please welcome to the stage, Dana Lavecchio.
When I was in the second grade, my teacher, Mrs. Harrington, had us all draw a picture of what we wanted to be when we grew up. After my classmates shared pictures of astronauts and doctors and professional football players, I proudly showed my picture, a stick figure with a microphone, talking to a captivated audience and making them laugh hysterically. At the age of 7, I knew that I wanted to be a stand-up comedian. This is my assistant I brought today. Thank you, Pierre. Don't forget to tip your waiters. So in the second grade, I wanted to be a stand-up comedian. But then in 1992, I found God. Also known as Mike Myers in every single character he ever played on Saturday Night Live. I spent my middle school weekends glued to the TV on Saturday nights watching Saturday Night Live, and then glued to the TV again on Sunday nights watching In Living Color. When In Living Color was over, I would lock myself in the bathroom and I would re-perform all of my favorite sketches in the mirror for myself. And I would laugh hysterically and say, "Dana, you're so funny." And then the next day on Monday, I would go to school and I would perform the same sketches for my classmates. I quickly realized that if I could get people to laugh with me, they wouldn't be laughing at me. And as a super awkward and incredibly insecure middle schooler, this saved my life. I learned that humor is a really quick way to bring people together, and it makes everyone just feel a little bit more comfortable. So in 1992, I declared that I will be on Saturday Night Live. And Mike Myers will come down from his office and he will say, "Dana, you are the best cast member we've ever had on this show. And if that dream didn't come true for me, then I would just teach." In case you didn't notice, I'm not on Saturday Night Live. But I am, in fact, a second grade teacher at the school where I was a Sports for Kids coach. And I feel an incredible sense of gratitude that my backup plan became the career that I can't imagine not having. Now, I know some of you are thinking, "Dana, what happened? You're so funny, I would watch you on TV." And poor Dylan is sitting here thinking, "Who is Mike Myers and what is In Living Color?" These people are hella old in here. Well, when I was 28, I remembered that picture from Mrs. Harrington's class, and I had this moment of, "Oh my gosh, Dana, you're 28 years old. You have to go for that dream because in 2 years, you're gonna be 30 and basically life is over then. You're dead. You have to do this now." So I did. And for 5 years, I did stand-up in San Francisco and New York, and I loved it. It was so much fun. Like that picture from second grade was coming true. People were laughing. I was controlling an audience with my words. I was pushing the limits to see just how much I could get away with humor. When I lived in Chicago, I studied improv and sketch at the Second City, which is basically the Harvard for improv and sketch. I was able to write and perform a sketch with current cast member of SNL, Cecily Strong. Like, it was, right, name drop, what? Yeah. It was amazing, you know, like, I was this kid who had this dream, and I was going for it. And it was amazing. And then one day when I was living in New York, I had this thought. And my thought was, I don't really want to do this anymore. And that freaked me out. Because this is like who I was. Like jokes, that's who I am. And that's who I was. And this battle in my head began. That lasted for about 2 years. It was like there were these two voices in my head. And one of them was saying, Dana, you must do this. You have to do this. You've been wanting to do this forever. And the other voice was saying, yeah, but I don't want it. And it kept going back and forth. Dana, look at all of your friends. All of your friends are making it. Yeah, okay, you're right. Maybe I should do it. I should do it, right? I should totally do it. Of course you should do it. Cecily Strong just gone on SNL. Aren't you going to be on SNL? I guess I should do it. Yeah, people tell me I'm funny. I should totally keep doing it, but I don't really want to do it. So I did what anybody in New York would do. I got a therapist on Park Avenue because I'm fancy crazy. So after working with this therapist for about 2 years on this and other things, because if you know me, you know there's other shit going on. I had this realization. It wasn't that I didn't want to do stand-up or comedy anymore. It was that I didn't need to do it anymore. I didn't need the validation of an audience clapping, and I didn't need a group of strangers laughing at everything I said as if to tell me I was good and everything was okay. And one of the biggest things I learned, finally, was that I was intelligent and had so much more to offer to the world than some well-timed dick jokes. Which, by the way, were hilarious. After I had this realization, it was time to check back in with the backup plan. So I went back to grad school, got my master's and my credential, and now I'm teaching 2nd grade. Last year was my first year, and my first year was a class. I had this kid named Ali in my class, and Ali was missing his front teeth, and he came up to about here, and Ali and executive functioning never quite seemed to meet. Like, he was all over the place. During a math lesson, he would just put his coat on over his head and just like space out. During writing lessons, I would notice that he was on the ground, on his knees, just doing donuts around the carpet, around everyone. And when I was trying to do a read aloud to the class, Ali would be impersonating Leonardo, his favorite Ninja Turtle, and karate chopping other kids in the class. So I had to channel this energy. So one day I pulled Ollie over. I was like, hey, buddy, come on over here. Let's talk. Let's check in. Let's have a little check-in. What's your check-in question? Which superhero would you want to be? Okay, now we're like feeling good. Let's talk to you about the meat. I was like, hey, buddy, you got a lot of energy. I want you to know, like, anytime you feel like you have all this energy, just get up. No matter what's going on, just get up and you can just walk around the class. You know, just listen to what I'm teaching, but buddy, you can just always walk around the class. So later that day, I'm teaching, and out of the corner of my eye, I see Ali get up and do this in the back of the classroom. And Ali would just do this all the time. Later in the year, we were having a day. One of those days, as a first-year teacher, when you just don't know what to do. Match me's not working. They're not clapping 2 times. I was probably PMSing. That's not the point. So I called an emergency meeting. I was like, everybody, emergency meeting, circle up. And I was like, I was gonna lose it. I was gonna lose it. So I did what any one of you would do here. When you're working with children and you're about to lose it, you must channel your inner Bill Van Ark. Channel your inner Bill Van Ark. And I'm like, what would Bill do? What would Bill do? What would Bill say? What would Bill say? Don't be Dana, be Bill Van Ark. And then it came to me. Hello, my little precious moonstones. I am having some feelings today. I need you to help me turn my frown upside down and just give me some tools from a little tool belt. What can I do when I'm feeling frustrated or mad? Shreya, I see you have a quiet hand. Shreya, what can I do? You could take some deep breaths. I could take some deep breaths. I'm going to take that tool. I'm going to put it in the tool belt. Bailey, thank you for sitting so quietly, crisscross applesauce. What can I do? You could take a walk. I could take a walk. I'm going to take that tool. I'm going to put it in the tool box. And then Ali rose his hand. So I called on Ali, not knowing what was going to happen. I don't even know if he understood what the question was. So I'm like, Ali, what can I do when I'm feeling frustrated? Ali gets into character. He looks at me and he says, you could drink some coffee. And the class lost it. We laughed immediately. I was not frustrated, and this became our inside joke for the rest of the year. Like this one moment that Ali created by turning into a character just brought us even closer. These kids are 3rd graders now, and I see them on the playground. And every time I see them, they still turn into like little Goombas and are like, Miss Lavecchio, do you still like your coffee? And Ali is a perfect example because Ali drove me crazy on one hand. He drove me crazy. But then on the other hand, I loved him. And he was one of my favorites because he was a character straight out of the sketch. Like, just right there, every single day for me. So, when people ask me, as Ben Stein did earlier, why don't you perform anymore? Don't you want to do stand-up? Don't you miss being on stage? My answer is no. Not at all. If you walked into my classroom, you would see theater curtains, and behind the theater curtains are costumes and wigs. You would see puppets that have their own voices and backstories and characters. You would see jokes posted on the wall, and you would see the sign-up sheet for that month's talent show. How could I miss being on stage when I get to share a stage every single day with 23 2nd graders who are figuring out their character? My backup plan is a far better version of the plan and ideas I had as a middle schooler. And teaching is pretty much performing. It's just like stand-up. You know, I still have a captivated audience every day. Sometimes I kill it. A lot of days I bomb. The only differences are this audience doesn't heckle me. I don't tell dick jokes. Hilarious dick jokes. And my humor finally has a purpose. Thanks.